The final project on human factors in AI. I have chosen my product similar to the one in the previous course, which is managing ML projects. My product is basically an AI based augmentation system that enables mood lighting and music for the perfect ambiance consistent with every emotion and activity. So I would assume someone, let's say, sitting in their room, maybe wanting to set an ambiance of um, a little bit, anxiety relief, or if they're, if they're feeling too anxious, they have the right lighting and the right um, music to uplift them. So that's just an example. My task analysis included the following. So currently, when I play music as per my emotion or mood and adjust lighting, first of all, I have to acknowledge it, that I'm feeling a certain way. I have to label it, and I need to recognize it. The second part is selecting my app of choice, so something like Spotify for my music, and searching the right music to suit my mood. So if I'm looking for something uplifting, I would probably search that up and it should draw something for me. Um, then I love connecting my Bluetooth or cloud speaker to play the music, so it's a more ambient rather than in my headphones. But this system should work on any that you choose as per your personal preference. And then the last part is actually adjusting the lighting. So that could be changing the temperature of the light, changing the color of the light, which really helps in setting the right tone and ambience for enjoying the experience. So the proposed solution basically removes the in between manual steps of acknowledgement, choice, etc., but automatically identifying mood using IoT sensors. So I'm thinking of something like wearables that a user already wears. So things like ECG, maybe, heart rate and things like that. Like those are the factors that would feed into determining the right kind of music and lighting. And obviously, this system is serving as an augmentation system. So it's not making the decision, it's sort of like helping the human to actually understand, what they might want to listen to, or what the environment might want to look like. So the app, or the user interaction or the interface, is divided into two parts. The interface, the vision is to have a mobile application where the front end UI allows the user to first register themselves, providing very high level details. We really don't need much from the user except for their music taste and their correlation with mood and lighting, and obviously their activity of choice as well. So someone might like white light when they're in work, when they're at work, really focus music during that time, whereas maybe when they're in the kitchen they want something a little bit more warm, and the music to be a little bit more laid back, uplifting. And maybe in the bedroom it's a little bit more um, a little bit more um, calm, and maybe the colors they associate with that would be a little bit more calm as well. So that could be like an actual color. So that could be, either like a soft shade of violet or something, So those are the kind of things we would actually take from the user. And we would also require them to declare any sensor wearables that they already have. So let's say someone wears an Apple Watch, or someone wears a, the the ring, right? I forget the name, but the ring. So any of these things, if they can declare it and give us the permission to actually use the data from there, that would be really helpful, because that will feed into the system, as well as anything that they currently have in terms of connection to the cloud, and their speakers and lights and things like that. So that will be my user interaction interface. And then obviously the user will be asked to connect to those devices and provide permission to the application. Our sensors, the user will be asked to share anything that would be the current wearables, like I said, We don't want to be in the market of making those devices, so we're not even going in there. User will be able to see live tracking of their sensor statistics on the app and how it's impacting their output. So this means they will be able to see what the wearable data is and read it on the app, and how the app is going to make inferences, or how their data is feeding into making those inferences for them. Um, and a side note, our UI will indicate the purpose of the data being collected and how this will impact the model, the results of it. Also, we will provide consent. We will be asking user for consent to permit data communication back to the company, or to provide feedback on the results, which we will see later. So in the UX design, for considerations against transparency, uncertainty, feedback. For transparency, cite the sources of data, insights on data collection and training process, that could be an added one. Explain how each sensor output and inputs from user or an app questionnaire adds up to the model, like I explained in the previous slide. Uncertainty, it's best to consider any margin of errors that may be calculated during training process, and communicate that to the user in terms of uncertainty. Any specific observations from beta testing could also be shared as added information that would gain the trust of users. And a good idea is to insert the value of explicit feedback from the user. So just explain to them why their feedback matters to us. The feedback itself, we will gather both explicit and implicit feedback. For explicit, we will ask consent on the app at various junctions, such as while gathering their data, while the model is predicting their moods and colors, and then the overall user experience. And we will gather the implicit feedback, again with consent, by tracking the times the user interacts with the app and what points, including maybe modifying the output and how many times that's happening. Privacy laws, obviously, there are, sorry for the typo here, but one is the California state law that's the strictest, and the other one is the GDPR. We will have privacy by design. So by design, everything is set at private and not shared. We will have extra added system security with multi-factor authentication, password protection, cloud protection, all of that on our end. And data sharing, we have set up federated learning, differential privacy, and the fair information practices against those. The potential biases that I was able to identify. One is the measurement bias. It's a very subjective item to understand what someone needs when they're in a certain mood. Someone might want to go with their mood and want exactly that. Someone might want exactly the opposite of what they're experiencing. So that is something that, that's how do you measure that? And while these preferences will be captured in the questionnaire, it's still potential for bias or error. And then also the representation bias. So this might happen in case the training data may not encompass all demographics who use the product. So we have to consider that as well. Ethical considerations for us, there's fairness, basically ensuring outcome is same for all similar characteristics, regardless of personal differences. So what I've added here is that we will not be using these things as our input. We will, while it's good for the AI to recognize patterns from user data to create insights, it should not be using them for attributes or features to train on. So that's one thing. So maybe your ethnicity shouldn't really matter. Although in some cases it could, but that's not the point of this app. So when you get the user data, that should already cover it in the questionnaire. Accountabilities, basically we enlist all forms of data sources, how AI model works, the potential for uncertainty, all compliance laws and policies up front. So that's showing them that we are being accountable from our end. Also providing support and contact for users to report any biases and potential problems that they may encounter it, furthering that confidence that users do have on the company, and that we are doing the right thing. In terms of transparency, we basically do the same thing and list all forms of information, data sources. But also, I think what really by design is ensured is a visual representation of features and attributes captured live from the user and list those to show how it contributes to the final result. So this would be a more of a live view on the app. So that includes transparency as well. Thank you. That's the end of my presentation.